Prishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्ता कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नित्यानंद अवधूतेन्दुर वसुध प्राणवल्लभ जानव जीवितपति कृष्ण प्रेम प्रद प्रभु पद्मावती सुत श्रीमान सचिनंदन पूर्वजः भावोन्मत्त जगत्राता रक्तगौरकलेवरः नमो नमो अनिरुद्धाय ऋषिकेश इन्द्रियात्मने नमः परमहंसाय पूर्णाय निवृत्तात्मने स्वर्ग अपवर्ग द्वाराय नित्यं शुचि सदे नमः नमः हिरण्यवीर्याय चातुर्होत्राय तान्तवे So we are in verse, which is the verse we are in? Chapter 4? 4-4. So the qualification for obtaining transcendental knowledge is being described in the previous verse. So he's setting the stage for us being able to receive transcendental knowledge. And again, we have to remind ourselves, what is the goal of our life? What is the goal? Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. Right. Sambandha is the relationship. What is the Sambandha? The Gyan, the Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan comes to us when we come in touch with our Guru. And as we serve Guru and we serve Harinam wonderfully, then the Sambandha Gyan fructifies and it is on a step-by-step basis. And every one of us, we understand this because when we come in touch with Krishna consciousness in the beginning, we don't realize how deeply we could be affected by Krishna consciousness. But then we start getting exposed to Krishna consciousness on a stage-by-stage basis, and we start becoming purified by the power of the holy names and by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And slowly we reach a point where it becomes so much a part of our lives that the Sambandha, Krishna Sambandha, has grown from almost nothing, at least superficially speaking, at a level where it's discernible, it's not discernible, to a point where we say that this is what my life should be. And then comes Ado Shraddha, then you have Tata Sadhu Sango, Bhajana Kriya, then you have the position of a Guru. The Guru comes into life, and then the Guru opens the heart, Agyana Timirandasya, Gyananjana Shalakaya, Chakshurulmritamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. When the Guru opens the heart, by his mercy, Shraddha is established. And that Shraddha grows. So the Shraddha is established in the heart. Deeper faith is established in the heart because the Guru has very deep faith. The Guru has very, very deep faith because the Guru has had experiences of Shastra, which are called realizations. In other words, Shastra experienced without any distortion in a practical manner is realization of Shastra. So the Guru who has lived Shastra has deeper faith because there are experiences. And such experiences allow the Guru to bestow faith in the hearts of others. So, and the faith grows and the faith expands as time progresses, and we realize that our own sambandha or our relationship with Krishna and Guru also expands. Right? We see that. So the relationship expands and our sambandha expands according to the time and according to the level of sincerity and faith. It expands. And then it expands to the level where very deep faith essentially is where there have been very deep experiences according to Shastra, in line with Shastra. The whole idea of Shastric study and the whole idea of being able to share Shastra is to prepare us for the experiences. Knowledge in the Shastra is being given to prepare us for the experiences, so we would be able to recognize our experiences as being bona fide, and those are realizations. So, Shastra fundamentally prepares us for experiences when such knowledge is being put to use by way of engaging our limbs in the service of Krishna. And the most important seva that one prepares or one performs for the whole aspect of Shastra turning into real experience is chanting of the holy names. Because that's the Yuga Dharma. That is the Shastric conclusion that you begin your seva by chanting sincerely, and the chanting sincerely turns and transforms knowledge into experiences, because now we are engaging our limbs in the service of the Lord. Right? Kriya essentially is engaging limbs in the service of the Lord. Srila Rupa Goswami has very clearly defined that one has to engage our limbs in the service of the Lord. And once we engage our limbs in the service of the Lord, automatically realizations come, because we start experiencing our transcendental position as not being this body, but being a servant of Krishna. Krishna is transcendental. We are parts and parcels of Krishna. Our nature is also qualitatively the same. We are transcendental by nature. Then we start recognizing and we start acting in that manner. So the whole transformation occurs on a stage by stage basis. And transcendental knowledge is a stage by stage realization of sambandha. Krishna sambandha on a stage by stage basis is transcendental knowledge. At the ultimate level, one understands who he or she is in relationship to Krishna in great detail, right? Which is Krishna sambandha. In the beginning, there is Krishna sambandha of being, I am Krishna's servant, I am not this body. And one starts acting with faith on that instruction from the Shastra. They start experiencing what it is to be Krishna's servant. And then finally reach a point of being able to understand in detail what the Krishna sambandha is all about. What is the relationship? Who in the spiritual realm is my guide? Who is supposed to be taking me from one stage to the other? So there's great attachment, just as one comes across their guru and becomes very deeply attached to their guru. When the guru is revealed, they become deeply attached to the guru. In a similar fashion, in the spiritual world, when one receives guidance as we make progress, and there's progression and there's realization and there's purity, and one has given up unwanted desires and they are pure of unwanted desires, then the personality from the spiritual world who inspires us becomes even more important than Krishna. Just as much as now, one who has received the kripa of Sri Guru takes on a position which is even more important than Krishna, because we don't realize Krishna. We realize Krishna by serving Guru. We don't have the qualification to serve Krishna directly, so we serve Guru. Right? Sakshad Hari, Sakshad Haritvena, right? We sing. Sakshad Hari is Guru. He is Sevaka Bhagavan. He is an expansion of Balaram. And he has come here to receive service. Because we don't have the qualification to serve Krishna directly, the Guru takes his place and receives service. So he receives service from us and passes it on to the higher realms. He receives realizations from the higher realms and passes it on to us. So he is a via medium. So this transmission goes both ways, right? Back and forth. That's a role. So Krishna Sambandha and Krishna Gyan comes on a stage-by-stage basis. It's exactly how it works, right? So transcendental knowledge is a progression of Sambandha Gyan. A progression of Sambandha Gyan which ultimately would result in action. Because now the relationship is known, we start acting on the relationship. Okay, so now Krishna is making that statement in the third verse. He says, that very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee. What is this my devotee business? Sambandha Gyan. Right? Krishna says, you are my devotee. He has Krishna Sambandha. As well as my friend, again Krishna Sambandha. So without Krishna Sambandha, one cannot understand transcendental mystery of this science. So as our Sambandha with Krishna, with Guru grows, we will understand this transcendental science even more. This transcendental mystery is not known unless there is Krishna Sambandha, unless there is Guru Sambandha. So when one gives up unwanted desires, Anatta Nivritti is complete, and one is said to be fixed. One is supposed to be fixed at the lotus feet of Sri Guru. That is what it means. No wavering. No wavering, no doubts. Everything is clear because the unwanted desires have been eliminated. Most of the energy is 100% focused on seva, on understanding Krishna Sambandha. Right? That is what it means. Being fixed means being fixed in the service of Guru. That's what it means. Nishtha. Nishtha essentially means Guru Nishtha. Nishtha is being fixed. It means being fixed at the lotus feet of Guru. And then one can understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So one becomes a devotee, Sambandha Gyan. One becomes a friend, Sambandha Gyan. Then you start understanding transcendental knowledge. So as the Sambandha progresses, we understand the Bhagavad Gita better. Every year, if we are sincerely making progress, there should be deeper and deeper realizations from the same verses. If you pick up the Bhagavad Gita year after year in Krishna consciousness, you should be able to understand a perspective which is completely different. Week after week, you should be able to have a completely different understanding, not away from what the meaning is, but very much in line, but a deeper understanding of what the purport and what the translations are in the Bhagavad Gita. What is the purport of the Srimad Bhagavatam? What was the behavior of the Acharyas and why they behaved? All that confusion is completely gone. The confusion about being this body is completely gone. Year after year after year, if we are really making progress, the Shastra should become clear. These are signs and substance of being able to see if we are making progress. Are we receiving Srimati Radharani's mercy? Srimati Radharani is Kripa. Are we receiving her Kripa? Are we receiving her mercy? Or are we committing aparadha, going against the mood of Srimati Radharani? Aparadha. We spoke of aparad last week. So when one starts committing aparad, then the whole aparad essentially means, what is mercy? Let's define mercy. Mercy is defined as our ability to appreciate Shastra. Our ability to chant and appreciate the holy names. Our ability to appreciate the value of Krishna, a Sambandha through the association of devotees. Our ability to appreciate the value of service and the opportunity for service, understanding that this is quite rare. This is mercy. Because all these items essentially bring us closer and closer to the original position of being Krishna's servant. That's what is really mercy. Aparadha, which is going against the mood of Radharani, going against what is mercy, essentially takes away our taste in reading. We cannot understand the Shastra. It will be quite bewildering. I have seen cases where they even found prasadam tasteless. Things that become so bad, people hit a bottom when you really find that prasadam is tasteless. Wonderful prasadam, Krishna prasadam, I can't have. They can't even taste prasadam. See, sometimes you offer prasadam, people have sukruti, they accept it. People do not have Sukriti, they reject it. Right? During the Rath Yatra, during other times when you start distributing prasad, you have Sukriti, people accept it because they have Sukriti, they even put it in their mouth. In some cases, they don't have Sukriti, they just reject what is being given. Right? So the level of offenses is such that we even reject prasadam, but then that's the rock bottom. The easiest form of being connected to Krishna gets rejected. So every activity, if we are receiving mercy, should become enhanced on a year-by-year basis. So we start measuring our progress by seeing of year by year, year after year, year after year, are we making progress? Am I able to read Shastra? Am I able to live the Shastra? Am I able to chant better? Otherwise, we are going in the opposite direction. So what do we understand here? We understand that our ability to appreciate mercy is an increase in transcendental knowledge. Transcendental knowledge and the faith that is associated and the experiences that are associated with higher levels of faith and deeper levels of faith is transcendental knowledge, and there is nothing but our appreciation for what's being given and our gratitude. Deeper the gratitude for what has been given, greater the appreciation of what is being given, the more we start understanding that we are making progress. So do we realize what is transcendental knowledge? So transcendental knowledge does not necessarily mean that, oh, I have to know who I am in Braja. I have to know all the details of all those, specific details and the other, esoteric aspects of Krishna consciousness. The answer is yes, that is true. But then there's also the other truth that Krishna gives us experiences even in the early stages on a year-by-year basis, week-by-week basis, on a daily basis, in the morning and in the evening. Krishna consciousness is consciousness, and it is 24-hour business. It is not something that we just do at one point in time. It's not just when we pick up our beads early in the morning. It's Krishna consciousness. So one has to realize that. So year after year, year after year, year after year, day after day, if we start appreciating and we move greater and greater to our position of being a servant of Krishna, then be assured that we are receiving mercy. Be assured that our Krishna Sambandha is increasing. It's just a matter of time when we start making even more rapid progress. Do we realize? So there are gauges. There are gauges for every activity as to whether there is progress. Well, through seva. Any relationship increases through seva. Now, understand this. Serving Guru, serving his mission are one and the same. Understanding that the Guru is a servant of Srila Prabhupada. He lives for his Guru. So if we serve Srila Prabhupada's mission, then we are serving Sri Guru. It's very simple. The more and more we dedicate ourselves, the more and more we are serving Sri Guru. Jayananda Ghosh Prabhu, the great personality, Prabhupada's disciple, he practically would never ever want to meet Prabhupada. Even Prabhupada used to insist, and he would not want to meet Prabhupada because he didn't want to waste his time. He used to be out there building Rath Yatra carts. He used to be out there making devotees, bringing devotees closer to Krishna. He used to be out there doing all kinds of service. So it's not so much that we have to be proximate to the Guru, but we have to understand his motivation. We have to understand his mission and then dedicate ourselves to his mission, and that is recognized by Krishna. See, ultimately it is Krishna who is the Paramatma who recognizes our need for a spiritual master, and he manifests himself in the form of Guru externally and starts receiving service based on how to connect us in an efficient manner. It's a very strategic, efficient system. The less interference there is in that, and the more surrender there is, the more efficient it becomes. So the more we start serving the Guru, the more we start serving the Guru's mission, the more we become connected to him. My spiritual master met Srila Prabhupada 6 times. There are many sannyasis in the movement today who are gurus who never met Srila Prabhupada. You know that they got initiated by mail, but very dedicated souls, extraordinarily dedicated. Their connection to Srila Prabhupada and their realizations are so deep because they served Srila Prabhupada with great sincerity. And Srila Prabhupada, the Guru Sambandha and the relationship which they had with Srila Prabhupada was revealed through that form of service. See, Lord Chaitanya's movement is not an artificial movement. In other words, Sri Chaitanya is very clear. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is clear. The Acharyas, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and everyone are very clear in their own scriptures. There are many scriptures we can quote. Raghavatma Chandrika. There are so many different scriptures which talk about how seva in the service of Lord Chaitanya is all that is required for us to reach and attain whatever is required in Krishna consciousness. 100% dedication to the mission of the Guru. What is the mission of the Guru? The mission of Guru is the mission of Srila Prabhupada. Mission of Srila Prabhupada is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Understand the relationship and focus ourselves on the mission of Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru is automatically served. We are serving his instructions. Right? So that's what we need to do for us to be able to connect. Now what we need to do is that on an year-by-year basis, on a day-by-day basis, we need to be able to monitor ourselves to see if we are making progress. Understand this. Krishna consciousness, you either make progress or you regress. You don't stay steady. You cannot stay steady. Because in the material world, you're either this or you are this. Cruising along is not going to work. You can cruise along for some time, but more or less after some time you start going down. It doesn't work. So you constantly have to upgrade. We constantly have to understand, okay, this is the level of commitment this year. What should be the next level of commitment which I can do? I have done so much. What is the next I can do? Where's the limit? Where is the limit? There's no limit to what can be given. There's no limit. Correct? So that's exactly how Krishna Sambandha reveals itself. Transcendental knowledge reveals itself by our understanding of how to serve. Because ultimately, transcendental knowledge is understanding how we are servants of Krishna. So the more and more and more we intensify our ability to dedicate ourselves, the more and more and more transcendental knowledge is revealed. Any relationship develops when there is a service. Right? That's the reason why sannyasis never receive service from women. Renunciates never receive service from women because a relationship gets established. Once seva starts, relationship starts getting established. So you never, sannyasis generally don't receive service from the opposite gender because then relationship starts getting established in a steady place. That's why they have said travel all around. You should not be in one place for more than 3 days. They're constantly traveling. You know, depending on the ashram, there are certain instructions because there's a very deep science knowing that once you start receiving service, you develop a relationship, there's attachment, so on and so forth. But the opposite of it is also true. Once we start serving Krishna, we become attached. That's the beauty. It's the same system. The switch works both ways. You can either get attached to Maya. The more you engage yourself and you engage your senses, the more we engage our senses in Krishna's service, the more attached we become. So the opposite is true. And the more attached we become and the more we start appreciating what has been given to us on a day-by-day basis, the more and more we are able to see that the same verse, pick up the Bhagavad Gita, read the book on a daily basis, read it year after year, and you will find that the understanding that you have, if it is increasing, your realizations are deeper, and a better understanding comes forth. We realize we are making progress. We should be able to gauge ourselves. Am I chanting better? Am I having difficulties in the most basic principles of Krishna consciousness? I'm struggling. Year after year, then pay attention to what we're doing. We got to improve. What was your question? Because we are not practicing Krishna consciousness. That's the answer. Right? There's no question of regression if indeed we are doing what is needed and what is supposed to be done. Regression starts when we take things easy. Complacency and spiritual life go ill together. Complacency and anything go ill together. What to say of the highest goal of life? Right. So anyway, that is transcendental knowledge. Now we are clear that transcendental knowledge fundamentally begins on a daily basis, and we have an opportunity. So there's so much to look forward to in Krishna consciousness, because what you know today is nothing. Isn't that amazing? I wake up and I have a realization that I know nothing. I may have spent 50 years chanting, I know nothing. Because there's so much more which can be experienced in Krishna consciousness. There's so much more of sambandha. There's so much of videya that can be done after such sambandha. How exciting is that prospect? How exciting is that prospect that it is really a phenomenal objective, and there's phenomenal mercy available, and the process works, it is scientific, and here's my opportunity. Right? And there's such clarity. Prabhupada has made everything so clear. By his own examples, there are many wonderful servants of Srila Prabhupada who inspired us. By their examples, all of this is mercy. This is sambandha gyan. The more we appreciate someone's service, it is sambandha gyan, because we are able to appreciate their service quality, we are able to appreciate their Krishna consciousness. The more we are focused on the negativity associated with people, the more we are focused on matter, because matter and negativity are associated with each other. Learn to make these distinctions, right? Because our focus will tell us exactly how we are. So let's go to 4. Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivashvata katam vijnanam katam vijnaniyam tvam adau proktavan iti. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? So it's quite a qualifying question, because he says the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. He did not exist in this age. He was Manu. He's been existing for millions of years before. So how did you instruct this science to him? Now Arjuna is not in ignorance while he's asking this question to Krishna. He is asking this question specifically to benefit us, so that because these questions come to us, how did Krishna instruct Vivaswan? Why do those questions come to us? Doubt, yes, but why? Why do those questions come to us? It is because we think Krishna is a human being. There's a frog-like mentality where we are a frog in the well, and we estimate Krishna's potency based on our own potency. I do not remember anything of the previous birth. How is Krishna supposed to remember? Right? Our gauge is based on us. Okay? We don't. So now the next question, the next answer, Krishna gives the answer. Verse 5. Shri Bhagavan uvacha bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava arjuna tani aham veda sarvani natvam veta parantapa. The personality of Godhead said, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So many births have I passed, but I remember all of them. And what is that all about? How many of you remember what you were doing exactly this minute yesterday? How many of us remember exactly what you were doing this minute yesterday? What were we doing 6 hours before today? Tough. Can you understand? Why is it that we do not remember? What is this whole quality of forgetting? We are ordinary, but what is our quality? What does it mean? The extent of tamas that exists in consciousness, to that extent there would be a loss of memory. When tamas starts creeping in greater and greater, people start losing their memory. Children, when they are very young, they pick up and they read a verse, they remember immediately. As we grow older, our faculties, they become immersed in ignorance because we expose ourselves to many activities and there are many impressions in our chitta which are ignorant. Automatically, it impedes our memory. Brahmacharis have phenomenal memory. Naistika brahmacharis, those who have been celibate from birth, phenomenal memory. They can remember. Because they have not had and they have not wasted their prana. They have not wasted their prana. So they can remember. It is all very connected, the life force. So greater the consciousness, greater the personality's ability to remember. So the greater the increase of tamas, we forget everything. That's the reason why we say that, you read early in the morning because it gives you the ability to remember. It gives you the ability to remember because the quality of time early in the morning is in the mode of goodness. It allows you to remember. Right? In the night, it is the mode of darkness. It is ignorance. It does not allow you to remember because ignorance basically causes memory loss. Now, is Krishna, any part of Krishna, is there any ignorance? 100% transcendence. He is the supreme person. He is samam bonam. He is constantly higher. He is transcendental. So he never forgets. But we, being on the material plane, being exposed to ignorance, we forget. Tamas makes us forget. Tamasic activities make us forget because tamasic activities impose impressions on the consciousness and automatically it causes memory loss. Causes memory loss. Yes. What kind of tamasic activities Krishna conscious act? Someone who is a devotee who can have. Well, you can see that memory is very sharp of one who is more and more transcendental they become, less would be the memory loss. They cannot forget. They cannot forget. Tamas enters through many different ways. Tamas is fundamentally identification with the body. When one starts identifying with the body, what happens to the body? The body is destroyed, and so is the case with that particular aspect. Right. So tamas fundamentally is where we identify with the body. There's a great level of or amount of sleep. Problem. Right. There's great body consciousness, there's a problem. Transcendental consciousness essentially means that it goes back, it is transcendental, it does not impede, it is not impeded by matter. It is not impeded by matter. And what is the path of Krishna consciousness? Can we understand this? We just spoke a little bit about transcendental knowledge. What is transcendental knowledge at the highest level? At the highest level, transcendental knowledge takes us back to our original position of our relationship with Krishna. So now you're remembering something and you're conscious of a relationship that has existed for millions and millions of years. Because now you're on the transcendental plane of consciousness. On the material plane of consciousness, we cannot even recognize such a relationship. On the transcendental plane of consciousness, one realizes their specific relationship with God. And that relationship has existed for millions of years. How do you remember that? You remember that because you have transcended matter. You remember that because you have transcended matter. Take the lifetime of someone who used to live in Satya Yuga. In Satya Yuga, the average lifetime of a person was something like 100 or 150,000 years. 100 or 150,000 years was the average lifetime of a person during Satya Yuga. So, how is it possible that you remember 150,000 years worth of activities where we cannot remember what we did yesterday? Because the quality of consciousness and the quality of the environment and the opportunity for becoming tamasic was very less. And the activities were highly sattvic, so there was an ability to remember. See, the sattvic surroundings of even schooling, right? The Gurukul had a very sattvic surrounding. So it was in the forest, it was very sattvic, austere, because you had, buildings, so on and so forth, which were quite austere. The students used to be trained specifically to ignore the demands of the body. They used to sleep on a bed which was of, kusha grass, and so on and so forth, not anything soft, the brahmacharis. The brahmanas in general were trained that way. The brahmanas in general were trained to become austere, because austerity is a gift for the brahmana. Right? They were trained. So the whole idea was that there was less and less and less tamas in the environment, which allows one to focus on transcendental topics, which allows one to remember. So the one who becomes transcendental is able to remember the past birth. They're able to remember going back 1,000,000 years, 2,000,000 years, the beginning of existence. They're going back to their particular relationship with Krishna. Several births are remembered. So do we realize that what is tamas? Tamas is fundamentally what we just asked in the beginning, saying how many of us remember what we did yesterday at the exact this time? We have difficulty in remembering one day prior. Right? Unless the impression in the chitta was so severe that we don't forget. We have a difficulty remembering. We have a difficulty remembering things. We have difficulty remembering something that occurred 20 years back. Right? 25 years back. Whatever we read in our college degrees is completely forgotten, for most part. Completely. I know in my case it applies. Right? Completely forgotten for most part. Because either we were not interested, we didn't pay attention, the whole aspect of it or the existence at that time was tamasic. Could be so many different little instances. So one has to realize that this is tamas. The more transcendental we become, we remember Krishna is pure transcendence. He is the samam bonam. How can he forget? He remembers all his births. He remembers his instructions. Do we realize that? He is the super soul. He remembers everything. So Krishna, Srila Prabhupada writes here, he quotes from the Brahma Samhita saying, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayavvanam Cha. Purana Purusham Navayavvanam Cha. He is the oldest, but he is always ever fresh in youthfulness. Right? Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person, absolute, infallible, without beginning, although expanded into unlimited forms. He is still the same, original, the oldest, and the person always appearing as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, all-knowing forms of the Lord are usually not understood by even the best Vedic scholars, but they always manifest to pure, unalloyed devotees. So now you have Krishna who is completely transcendental. He remembers everything. So I'm going to stop here. We'll try and see if we can take questions. Yes. You can say that, yes, because he is transcendental, essentially being means that he is 100% spiritual. But since we are encased in a material body, since our faculties are material, material essentially means ignorance, surely that leads to forgetfulness because we don't have the capacity to remember. That's exactly what the position is. But then, when we transcend this body, when we receive transcendental knowledge by engaging this body and the senses in the service of the Lord, we become transcendental qualitatively by coming constantly in touch with Krishna and Krishna consciousness and by serving the devotees. Then automatically we expand our ability to go back and remember millions of births prior in our service to Krishna. The details of a particular relationship with Krishna becomes revealed, which is as old as time. It's eternal. It's uncovered. The tamas is taken away. So yes, it is not. It is not. It is not. It is a transcendental. It is a transcendental aspect of our existence. Yes, but then we have to realize that transcendental existence also powers how the body functions. See, externally, one may appear to be on the same level. Externally, one may appear to be appearing the same as we are. But internally, their consciousness has expanded. The subtle body has expanded, has become purified. So the powers are completely different. They are not on the level that we are in because the powers are completely different. The subtle body has changed. It is not the same subtle body. They have realized the truth, and that consciousness is completely different. So the memory that comes along, the realizations that come along, and the understanding that comes along in every situation will be completely different. Will be a different caliber altogether. See, one we also say Sat, Chit, Ananda. And what is Sat? Eternal. What is Sat? It is also the truth. So Krishna being Sat, Chit, Ananda, truth never changes because Sat essentially is truth, and truth is absolute by nature. Okay, in reality, it's absolute by nature. It never changes. So that's the original quality. So Krishna remembers everything. It is not that, oh, I forgot something. I remembered now, but I forgot something. I have a distortion of what the truth is. What was your question? They are not transcendently situated, but then they have acquired the powers. Those are perfections that they have acquired for them to be able to. Very rare, very, very rare to acquire such siddhis. See, telling the past is not so much what we talk about in terms of transcendence. You don't need to be transcendental to tell the past. At the very highest levels of mode of goodness, we can tell the past. There are many different ways to know the past. There are many who even capture certain spirits and employ them, and the spirit tells them exactly who the person is in front of them. And they are able to recognize who the person is. They speak out based on instructions given by such mediums. No, they are in the mode of ignorance. So telling the past is not what we are talking about in terms of ignorance or in terms of transcendence. What we are talking about here is that he says, many, many births have been there. I remember every one of them. But you don't. We practically have forgotten. So one might be able to say that yes, your previous birth was such and such. The birth before that was such and such. Okay? But not that you remember everything. going all the way back and every appearance and what the instructions were and who you instructed to and which form and so on and so forth. People can remember. So, for instance, there are also modern psychological techniques or psychiatric techniques where you have past life regressions, where they put you in a hypnotic state and then they allow you to go back to previous lifetimes. One starts seeing the previous lifetimes, and the whole idea is such therapy is supposed to correct some behavior. Someone is having a behavioral problem, someone has some kind of a phobia. What the psychiatric does is actually quite dangerous if you do not know what you're doing. They open up certain channels which allow the person to see who they were in the past, so that they have the ability to recognize how they're being affected by the past in the present, so that you start remedying what the present is by going back to the past. So you can go back to the past, but those are occurrences. What here Krishna is talking about is that he instructed Sri Vivaswan this science millions and millions of years ago, and now I am instructing it to you again. Krishna is making this statement. So he is very clear that I existed then and I am existing now, and I am speaking the same science. We don't have the ability to remember because we are not transcendental, we are material. It is said that when the baby is in the womb, the baby starts offering prayers to the Lord, because the baby starts remembering the previous birth and understanding that it is quite futile for the baby to even step into the material world, because it remembers all the previous instances, the traumas of previous lifetimes and so on and so forth. And it starts offering prayers saying, please don't let me out. Don't let me out, because it's quite distressing. Then by the time the baby passes through the birth canal, it is said that the memory is completely cleansed. Because if the memory of even the memory of being in the womb of the mother can be quite traumatic, those memories are cleansed so that people can exist. If we remember everything of the past, it can be very traumatic, because there could have been many lifetimes where there could have been quite a few intense experiences. All those intense experiences can cause immense confusion if everything is vivid, and you can look at it. Yeah. Well, in the spiritual life, basically the whole existence in the material realm is almost like someone just blinking their eyebrows. The eyelashes. That's how minuscule it is. Even a million lifetimes on the material plane is like a flash in the pan. So why would they want to even remember this nonsense? Honestly. Yeah, they would not, because at that time they're fully absorbed. They're 100% absorbed. But yes, see, it doesn't mean that you forget everything. It's just that the fact is that in the transcendental consciousness, in the transcendental state, one is able to connect to the truth. Okay? So even you'll have to realize this. It is said God knows everything. He is omniscient. Omniscient necessarily does not mean that he remembers everything about everybody at the same time. Can you imagine how that is? Remember that. Billions and billions and billions and trillions of living entities, and you got to know everything because he's a super soul? No. If he needs to know, he can know anything he wants. Omniscience. Do you understand what I'm saying? If he wants to know something, he can know immediately. There's no ignorance that is blocking him from knowing something about someone or some aspect or anything like that. Exactly as I said. Even land doesn't move, even a blade of grass does not move unless Krishna wills. Even a blade of grass does not move unless Krishna wills should be related to it in such a way that, number one, the blade of grass is moving according to his program. That is number one. Second is, if he wills, that blade of grass will not move. So for instance, something is happening, but if Krishna wills, that need not happen. It is just that he is allowing it to happen because that's the way it is supposed to be, because those are the rules of the universe. But he can break those rules. I'm not able to understand your question. Of course, he is, when we call out his names very sincerely, the holy names are not different from Krishna. He is there. He is there. When we call out sincerely, depending on the sincerity, he appears. He is the holy names. Krishna is not limited by anything. Any limitation on God is an issue, right? He's not limited by anything. Yeah. Do they have the free will to act in a lusty manner? Is that what your question is? In the spiritual world, what is lust? Focus on our own senses is lust. In other words, it is a material quality. Correct? The focus on Krishna's senses is love. The whole definition of spiritual life and spiritual world is where Krishna is in the center. No matter where we are situated, if we can keep Krishna in the center, it is the spiritual world. Right? Though it is said that, elevated souls who have the ability to constantly center themselves on their relationship with Krishna, and Krishna is always in the center of their existence, they are practically in Vrindavan wherever they are. So in such a definition, where is the question of lust? Lust is where we focus on our senses. But by definition, the spiritual existence is where there's 100% focus on Krishna's senses. Yes. That is exactly, see, here's the deal. Qualitatively, when we attain the ability to keep Krishna in the center 100%, even though we are in material bodies, we are in the material universe, when we become of that quality, that is when we have the ability to transcend matter. You understand? When we surrender and we have the ability to 100% give up our sense of free will. What is free will in the spiritual world? It is the same free will that is given to a pure devotee. A pure devotee has 100% free will. He is 100% free, but he does not want to be free. He wants to be 100% surrendered to Krishna. It is quite the opposite. See, it's like someone, a child who is very mature, very intelligent. The parents are very comfortable giving the child a lot of leeway because of the fact that the child is mature, is intelligent. But the child, being mature and being intelligent, even though being given such freedom, knows the protection of the parents and always wants to remain under the protection of the parents. So in a similar fashion, a pure devotee is one who has 100% freedom because he is basically, Krishna is subservient to him and his desires. But at the same time, such a personality is such that he does not even have any free will. He has given up his free will because he is a pure instrument of Krishna's will. You understand? So it is almost like Krishna is bending backwards to please the devotee is bending backwards to please Krishna. Do you understand? It's a corresponding back and forth relationship. It's a relationship. It's a beautiful relationship where Krishna goes out of the way. The devotee is going out of the way, and there's a competition between the devotee and Krishna. So that's the reason why pure devotional service is quite rare, because Krishna becomes subservient to the will of the devotee. You hear of Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. This is transcendental fundraising. Right? We keep hearing of fundraising that goes on. This is transcendental fundraising. Sri Raghunath Das Goswami was sitting and he was performing sadhana. He was performing his bhajan on the banks of Sri Radha Kund. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he discovered Sri Radha Kund. It was a small pond in the middle of a rice field. It was a small pond in the middle of a rice field. And he handed Sri Radha Kund to Sri Raghunath Das Goswami under his care. Sri Raghunath Das Goswami was such an austere, such a great personality that he sat there on the banks of Sri Radha Kund and he was doing his bhajan. And one day he had this reflection, just a reflection for a brief second, a few minutes, few seconds. How wonderful will it be if Sri Radha Kund could be developed, where we could create a proper lake, proper surroundings, so devotees could come and have a bath. They could get purified, they could serve Sri Radha Kund more wonderfully. How wonderful will it be if I have the ability to do such a thing? This was his thought. The moment he had this thought, he immediately chastised himself for even having this particular aspiration of wanting funds. But Krishna, being subservient to the will of Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, acted upon it. There was a merchant who was going to Badrinath. And while he was on the way to Badrinath, this merchant had a dream. And in the dream, Sri Badrinath himself appeared. And he gave him instructions saying, you are bringing a lot of funds, money, to deposit and to give me in Badrinath. I do not want that. My devotee is in Sri Radha Kund in Vrindavan, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Approach him and make your funds available to him. He needs it. So this merchant was extraordinarily thrilled because he had a darshan of his Ishtadev. He ran all the way from wherever he was on the way to Badrinath, all the way to Vrindavan to Sri Radha Kund, and he made his funds available to Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. And Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, with the help of the villagers, they built Sri Radha Kund. Now this is transcendental fundraising where you have 100% freedom to desire anything. You have 100% freedom to desire anything and Krishna would grant it. But the devotee does not want anything but seva at the lotus feet of Krishna. It's quite the opposite. Sri Kardama Muni, you read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he had the ability, yogic powers. He had yogic powers which are so extraordinarily powerful that he could create a castle in the air with 1,000 maidservants to serve himself and Sri Devahuti, right, his wife. Now this is a yogi. You can imagine what the power of Bhagavan is. If a yogi had the ability to create this. It is said in the Shastras, the yogi have the ability to create a planet. What is the power of Bhagavan? And that power is with a pure devotee. So there is a reciprocal relationship where Krishna is 100% selfless. The devotee is 100% selfless. So there is no question of lust in the spiritual world. It is nature. I wouldn't even really say it's choosing. Choose to act is where there are other motivations. There are no other motivations because that's your internal nature. You are living your internal nature. Does that make sense? Any other question? Well, the same reasons as I just, someone being nice, it generally doesn't mean that they have the ability to come in touch with Krishna consciousness. They may not be pious. It requires piety. There's a very basic foundation is that one has to be at least pious. The three different modes, tamas, rajas, sattva, at least one is sattvic, then they have the ability to connect. Somewhat. So, I've heard this, devotees when they go for book distribution, one of the favored techniques of book distribution is you have the Srimad Bhagavatam, such beautiful, wonderful paintings. You always open the painting and then give it to the person whom you want to distribute the book to. So they look at it If they're really pious, they become so attracted to Krishna's form that they immediately want to buy the book. In some cases, when they just look at the picture, they become so abhorrent that they just close it. They just say, "Take it away. Get out of my face. Move away." This experience comes in the case of many devotees who go for book distribution because the nature of the consciousness of people is such. Okay, one last question. Yeah, Mataji. Naranarayan Ashram, Parvat. Okay. Yes, there is. I do not know about Parvat, but yes, there is a specific spot where Krishna and his devotee Naranarayan Rishi they exist and they are performing their bhajan. There is this particular spot. I don't know whether it's a Parvat. It is said there is reference in the Shastra. There is a reference in the Srimad Bhagavatam about such a place. Yeah, so no, there is that particular statement of Naranarayan Rishi where they exist. There is a reference in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but I don't remember the exact mountain or the case maybe. Maybe I can look it up and I'll tell you about it. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki